Talk about Rachel from accounts. You know, she went AWOL, went to China, as Donald Trump would say, with her begging bowl to raise money because she's desperate to promote growth. That will be the economic growth that her £40 billion tax grab budget completely ruined any chance of. There can't be any growth after that ridiculous budget killed our economy stone dead. So she goes to China, Russell, and she raises, I'll raise £600 million over 5 years. So what is that, 120 million quid a year? I mean, from the second biggest economy in the world to what I think is still the fifth biggest economy in the world, our economy is worth £2.7 trillion. And she came back effectively with a fiver. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's like a kind of rocking up, and you know where you often go somewhere and you get given a little gift for attending. It's like she kind of came back with, I don't know, a grapefruit with some kind of cocktail sticks with some cheese on it. I mean, it's just like the most ridiculously lousy thing that she could possibly have achieved. So 600 million quid to us is not a lot in the scheme of things. To the Chinese, I mean, it literally is pence.
It's like they flicked her a coin.
Yeah.
Here, kid.
Yeah. Look down the back of the sofa, Rachel, before you go and see what you can find. But here's the other thing.
Here's a dime.
But here's the other thing. So she's banged on about this 600 million quid. Bear in mind, it's over 5 years, right? So it's about 125 million quid a year, whatever it is.
Yeah.
While she was away, the markets went into meltdown, as we know. So she went away during a financial crisis, a bit like Harold Wilson did.
Because just to put it into context, because the pound has fallen drastically against the dollar.
Swap rates have gone up.
And the cost of borrowing now, thanks to Rachel from accounts, thanks to Robert Reeves, is now the highest it has been for more than 30 years.
Yes, so the cost of government debt is now the highest it's been, which means that taxes will have to reflect that, because the interest payments that we pay to the Qataris and the Chinese, funnily enough, have just gone up. And as a consequence, though, it means people's mortgages will increase. So while people's mortgages were going up, whilst we were effectively being given a lower rating by the international markets, so she comes back with 600 million quid. Whilst all that happened, about £4 billion, Kev, was wiped off the value of FTSE 250 companies. So 600 million versus 4 billion. If she'd stayed here, made a statement, showed some faith, and actually tried to calm the markets, perhaps those companies wouldn't have lost £4 billion in value.
Absolutely. And she's now, people say, well, she's confecting this row. So she's trying to sort of blame somebody else for the problems she's caused, and she's saying that we need an urgent war on public sector waste. To an extent, I totally agree with her. You know, get rid of all these civil servants who don't ever turn up for work, get rid of all the diversity officers. Why is the Ministry of Defence spending £40 million a year on diversity officers? They call them protecting the protectors. It's pathetic. So yes, get rid of all of that. Get rid of loads of these people who don't do much work. Get rid of all the work from homers. By all means, I'm not against some drastic savings in the public sector department, particularly Whitehall, but she's just drumming this up to make it look as if, hey, it's not my fault, it's all of the waste that came before me. This bid, this ongoing, constant attempt by this ludicrously incompetent government to blame the Tories. Look what we inherited, look what we inherited, look what we inherited. It's ridiculous. I mean,
well, it's also not true.
Yes. Look, the Tories left them with a lot of crap, there's no doubt about that. The Tories were useless. But you don't have to persuade the public of that. You don't have to keep telling us. Why do you think you got the landslide victory? The loveless landslide, as they call it. People didn't vote for you, Keir, or you, Rachel. They voted against Rishi and the Tories. It was a negative vote. But you don't need to keep telling us it's the Tories' fault, it's the Tories' fault.
But
we already voted for that. We know that.
But we knew they would do this. We said before they were elected that they would get elected, that they would lie to get elected, which is exactly what the Labour government have done, and that, you know, they would blame the Tories, bearing in mind the opposition, as they were, the books, the country's books, the Treasury books are open to them for months and months and months in advance. So are meetings with civil servants and Treasury permanent secretaries and so on. None of this stuff is a surprise. Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer are making up the fact that this is all new news so as to cover their rather exposed backsides. Frankly.
No one's buying it, though.
No,
we were already disillusioned with the Tories. But this rhetoric, this narrative of theirs, it's just ridiculous. I mean, people, we know that. We know the Tories were useless. What we were kind of hoping, Keir, is you wouldn't be quite so useless, as opposed to what you've proved yourself to be, incredibly, and against all the odds, as in even more useless.
And if your back is against the wall fiscally, as clearly their backs are, and I'd have to also point out, the retail economy, as I would call it, is as in the economy that affects ordinary people on the street, was recovering. So we had inflation dropping, we had interest rates falling, productivity starting to increase, GDP growth, so the measure of the value of our economy, was starting to increase. We had positive growth. Roll forward 6 months, inflation's going back up again, interest rates aren't dropping, productivity has dropped, the whole economy has been ruined in 6 months by Rachel.
And we're knocking on the door of a recession, make no mistake about that. Now, meanwhile, her other panic measure to try to sort this desperate economy, our desperate national finances out, is she's going to take an axe to welfare payments, especially disability benefits, where, by the way, there's a massive fraud alert out after it emerged that 90%, talking of useless civil servants, 90% of disability claims, because basically I would assume no civil servants ever go to work, they always work from home. Yeah. These claims, 90%, 9 out of 10 disability claims, sometimes for life, are not assessed face-to-face. So they're done remotely. That has led to a fraud alert. So here we are again.
So what do they do over the phone? Do they say, can you bend down and touch your toes?
Basically.
Have you done it yet?
Yeah,
I mean, you have? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, OK.
Oh, I'm in a really bad way, I'll tell you. You better write me off.
I'll better sign you off for 6 months. Can I just suggest, rather than doing all this, maybe we shouldn't spend, I don't know, £22 billion on carbon capture. Maybe we shouldn't give £11 billion to other countries for climate mitigation. Maybe
22 million on carbon capture.
But maybe we shouldn't give £8 billion in foreign aid. Maybe we also shouldn't have given 22% pay rises to doctors and so on. It's a really simple thing, this economics, isn't it? Just basically prioritise the real grafters in society that will grow your economy, rather than giving money away so that the rest of us have to suffer.
Yeah, and also, so we're going to go to break in just a second, but we get a Labour government, a socialist government, and I mean, they keep coming out with these things that you would expect Tory governments to do, not Labour governments, not socialist governments. So, you know, they come on in and they take away the pensioners' winter fuel allowance, so grannies and granddads are freezing all over the country, a really heartless thing to do, that the Tories actually would never have done. Now they're going to cut billions and billions of pounds from disability welfare payments. Again, not exactly socialism, is it? Not exactly Labour. So they're so hopeless, they're so useless, they've so screwed up the economy that they're having to act like kind of really, really right-wing Tory governments who don't care about the vulnerable, the poor and the underprivileged.